Hello viewers, this is Paladin of Odin, and this is some more Magic the Gathering Online. This is another episode of the Standard Commentary Series, and it looks like we might have a mirror match. It looks like Orzhov no, not Orzhov Control, sorry, that was last Standard. This looks like Orzhov Aggro. Let's see... Timoret and Shahili. So Timoret currently has a Toolcraft Exemplar. He has a clue token, so it's a 3/2 during combat. He's got a Throbbing Inspector. He has Stasis Snare, which got rid of Eily Eternal Pilgrim. And Shahili has Bygone Bishop, which is going to chump block the Toolcraft Exemplar. Now, Timoret is pretty much out of cards at this point. He just threw down a land. He's only got one card left in his hand. At this stage, it's really lucky for him that he had a Throbbing Inspector to give him a clue token so that he could draw off of it next turn. But he does have a really good card to play, Aerial Responder. I haven't seen this guy very much, but then again, I don't keep up with Standard on a day-to-day basis. Ooh, and Always Watching. So, out of cards again, but he's got a 3/4 Flying Vigilance Lifelink and a 2/3 Vigilance. Attacking into a Zulaport Cutthroat. He does have 2 black mana open. Theoretically, he could have something to play here, but no. He chooses not to block. He goes down to 8. You know, if he could get... Never mind. I was going to say, if he could get another white mana and Fumigate, he'd be in a pretty good position. Not the greatest, since his opponent had 2 Shambling Vents on the board, but, you know, a Fumigate at that stage would have gained him 3 life off of the 3 creatures dying, and then Zulaport Cutthroat would have gained him another life on top of that, so he would have gained 4 life, killed the board, gone up to 12... And, you know, Shambling Vent would have had 3 power because of Always Watching, but that would mean that he'd have almost guaranteed, 2 or even 3 turns to try and pull himself out of that. But he drew his card for the turn and conceded, which tells me that, his hand was crap. Unfortunately. And, sometimes that's just what happens with the Shuffler. Oh, and... Okay. Sorry, I saw Mulligan to 5, and I was like, oh, I always hate to see that. Timoret did have to mull down to 6. Harsh Scrutiny. Creature card, and then discard it, and you get to scry 1. So, gets rid of Toolcraft Exemplar, leaves him with Selfless Spirit, Plains, Shambling Vent, Always Watching, and Stasis Snare. Now, I realize that Toolcraft Exemplar is the more aggressive card, but at the same time, honestly, I think I would have gotten rid of the Selfless Spirit just because of how annoying that card is. And Transgress the Mind. Okay, so he is going to try and wreck his opponent's hand here. And he got rid of the Stasis Snare. His Eily, what's her name? Selfless Pilgrim, something like that. Really could have helped him a lot in that last game. A 2/3 Death Touch is really good. And unfortunately, his opponent had a Stasis Snare to get rid of it. Syndicate Trafficker. A 3/1, pay 1, sack an artifact, give it a +1/+1 counter, and indestructible until the end of turn. Unfortunately, it looks like he's mana screwed. Selfless Spirit from the other side will man up the Smuggler's Copter so he can attack in with 3 flying. And it looks like it's just bad run for Shahili. It looks like the last game was just a bad hand. This time around, it looks like, as much as you would like to say a hand is still good, say for instance you have all these great cards in your hand, but you don't have the land. Unfortunately, the greatness of the cards don't overcome the fact that you are mana screwed, which means that your hand is crap. crap. So it's looking a lot like Timoret is going to take the whole match here. Though he is running out of aggression. Okay, so Shihili's attacking in for 3 with the Trafficker. That takes Timoret down to 17. And unfortunately, she's a turn behind, because if he wants to, he can just keep up this race and Smuggler's Copter will win a turn before Trafficker. But even worse, Aerial Responder, which allows him to man up the Smuggler's Copter and attack in with Selfless Spirit, which turns his 3 damage a turn into 5 damage a turn. Ooh, Grasp of Darkness to kill off the Selfless Spirit, but, you know, as he's wont to do, he'll just sacrifice it to give Indestructible to his creatures, but Selfless Spirit will still be dead. So it'll still only be 3 damage this turn, but next turn most likely is going to be the Always Watching, so that he can attack in with most likely the Aerial Responder instead of Smuggler's Copter. I mean, it is 1 more damage with the Smuggler's Copter, but Anguished Unmaking to get rid of the Smuggler's Copter, so never mind about the difference between 1 damage. But what I was going to say is, 4 damage from the Smuggler's Copter if he plays Always Watching versus 3 with the Responder. But more importantly, the Responder has lifelink, so he'd be dealing 3, gaining 3, which would nullify the Syndicate Trafficker's 3 damage. Throbbing Inspector. And attacking in for 2. Take him down to 9, gain him 2 life. He does have a chump blocker for the Syndicate Trafficker, which will kill it. That is one of the downsides of Syndicate Trafficker, is the fact that it starts as a 3-1, meaning that Throbbing Inspector can kill him. And he's attacking in. Now, theoretically, he could have a combat trick of some sort. Something... I'm just not thinking of anything right off the top of my head, sorry. But, and nothing. He just threw his Syndicate Trafficker at a Throbbing Inspector. Anguished Unmaking to get rid of the Aerial Responder. That takes him down to 6. But it does mean that his opponent has no board. Selfless Spirit. And Stitcher's Graft. Now, Stitcher's Graft is a very powerful card when you have stuff like Always Watching, which gives all your non-token creatures vigilance, or just on a creature like Aerial Responder, since he's already got vigilance, and a 5/6 flying vigilance lifelink is an incredibly powerful creature, especially when you can do this. You can throw this down on turn 1, do something on turn 2, throw down the Responder on turn 3, and then have a 5/6 flying vigilance lifelink on turn 4 to attack with. There's the Always Watching, and he concedes. So honestly, it looks more like we had an Orzhov Aggro versus an Orzhov Control. And unfortunately for Orzhov Control, they have the same problem that they did in the last standard block. It's just, you can potentially have an answer for every single creature that they play, but it never seems like the aggro decks run out of creatures. It always seems like they have another creature to play, which means that if you don't get the answer, you've pretty much burned all your ammo and you've got nothing left. And if you guys have been watching for for most of the time that I've been casting, then you guys are very familiar with that situation from the last standard block. So unfortunately for the control deck, it doesn't appear that things have changed. And there's nothing you can really do about it. Unless you want to splash into other colors. But even then, that might not even solve the problem either. But I've been babbling on here for far too long, so I'm going to end the video here. That was Orzhov Aggro versus Orzhov Control. And if you liked what you saw, hit that like and subscribe button for me, and I will see you in the next video.